It's good. I mean, crikey, goodness knows it's a tough gig at the best of times predicting what is going to come up. But I think it's fair to say that
I'm just midway.
Your suggestion that she would steer violently clear of all mention of housing-related issues was not your finest moment.
Well, I mean, I'm just midway through my humble pie, James, and you might want to try it sometime. No,
I'm allergic.
Yes. I shouldn't even bring it into this studio. It's like having some
nuts on
a plane. Exactly. No, but look, I think in a way I made the mistake of doing what a lot of Conservative MPs and Conservative people in the press are doing at the moment, which is underestimating Angela Rayner, right? And underestimating the extent to which she is not a normal political figure. I think most political figures in that circumstance would have done exactly as I suggested, which is try and kind of suppress it and keep it as quiet as possible and get through the session as unscathed as possible. Yes. She and her team, I think, clearly, completely correctly calculated, and it was a risk, it was a gamble. It was a gamble that Dowden would fall apart, which he did.
He did actually fall apart. You don't see that very often.
No, indeed. And it was a strategy. The strategic intent was to gamble and to make a bet that if she brought it up straight away, that his entire line of attack would crumble, collapse like a pack of cards. And indeed it did. He had absolutely nowhere to go. You could feel it. I mean, it was actually, even by PMQs standards, and someone who doesn't do it every week, it was an extreme. He started to flail, like a really, really poor performance. And then you could hear it in his voice. And from there on, she had nowhere to look but forward, because she just completely sort of bossed him around the House of Commons chamber, frankly. And, with actually, now and again, a line which even by PMQ standards, there are about 1% of jokes in PMQs which are genuinely funny. The rest are just parliamentary funny, i.e. everyone goes, ha, we could see that coming from 5,000 miles away. But talking about saying that he looked exhausted, maybe it's because the bad men are calling him in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. We genuinely laugh out loud funny, right? A reference to the Mark Menzies scandal. So, look, they clearly calculated that in this case, the best defence is a good offence. It was a risk because a more nimble and fleet of foot opponent might have been able to reverse it and come back and have anticipated it and have a stronger line, and gave them, she was basically giving them the wound that they could prise open. But Dowden proved himself completely incapable of it.
And that is, I mean, when you say flailing, the idea that he somehow ends up suggesting that the British people don't care about housing policy, or don't care about evictions, or don't care about the right to own your own home properly in the context of leaseholds. I mean, he sounded like someone who was desperately going through pieces of paper looking for something.
What can I say?
You think that they would have dedicated their preparation to kebabbing Angela Rayner, or barbecuing over the coals of her alleged misdemeanours regarding her housing arrangements 10 years ago. And when she said, "You're about to tell a rubbish joke about my housing arrangements," he had no choice but to stand up and tell a rubbish joke about her housing. And from that moment on, he was toast.
The way it works is that they will work out, if he says this and you say that, and then you sort of crowbar or segue that into that and so on. And by bringing it up instantly, it meant that he had nowhere to go. And I think what it shows is, in a way, is that, again, PMQs is not often revelatory or often doesn't remind us of anything. They just exchange kind of bromides sort of half an hour. But I think this does remind us, just politically, exactly why it is that so many certainly in the right-wing press, in the Conservative Party itself, fear Rayner as a political figure, because she is an unusual and an orthodox political figure, and she has a style, and she has a sort of mode of politics which is unusual, which is effective, which does cut through, and which very few politicians, particularly Conservative MPs, they struggle to know how to deal with it. You saw it in Dowden there, bringing up about right to buy and so on, and then she says, "Well, yeah, I did," like lots of working class people do, and they go, "It's like the computer stops working. It's like the little Boris Johnson used to call it the pinwheel of doom. It's like the computer is broken down." So I think that the net result of today will be that she will have affirmed to her allies and to people in the Labour Party why she is so valuable, but she will also have reminded her opponents how important it is for them to continue the fight against her. And I think the net result of today is that those opponents will double down, because they will be angry and furious that they've lost an opportunity to actually nail her down on some stuff. The way you can tell, James, that Dowden went completely off piste, not least because of just his voice and flailing around, but it's because in that situation, an ideal outcome for Dowden would have been to put her on the spot about something, would have been to ask a question that she refused to answer, and do the classic kind of like, it's not for me, this isn't, it's questions for the Deputy Prime Minister, it's not for me, all of that sort of stuff, to get a kind of non-denial denial. He didn't even get that far. So that's how you know that the whole strategy just completely collapsed.
Gosh, yes. I mean, it's hard to It is hard to exaggerate how bad that was for Oliver Dowden. The only bit that perhaps, it was effective, and I suspect that the galleries will have loved it, but what did she call Rishi Sunak?
Called a pint-sized loser.
It's a bit sizist.
It's quite Trump. It's it's quite it's very sort of the age, right?
She's fielded a heck of a lot of personal criticism, very personal criticism over the years.
Wasn't it something
to see it at the dispatch box? You wouldn't have got that from Keir Starmer, would you?
No, I don't think so. Wasn't it a Nadine line? I think pint-sized loser.
Oh, was it?
I think so. It certainly rings a bell.
Interesting.
Maybe she's read Nadine's book.
I got to mention Dell, who's been in touch, because I had already spotted this, and I don't know whether you're much younger than me, so you probably I don't know whether it fits into your popular culture orbit, but it reminded me of the final rap battle in 8 Mile.
You've lost me now.
I've lost you already.
Unfortunately, yeah.
When Rabbit, played by Eminem, nonpluses his rival rappers, the leaders of the free world, by essentially...
What are you talking about, James? Are you all right?
By listing all of the things that he knows they're about to accuse him of.
Okay, fine.
In what is known as a diss, you see, Lewis. And he destroys them. He absolutely destroys them, because all of the things they had prepared to say, Rabbit says himself, and leaves them floundering, flustered, failing. But Dell has pointed this out to me by texting, Angela 8-miled him. So didn't, and there's about a dozen people who've had the same thought. Justin says Angela Rayner did an 8-mile, but Dell feels the need to add in brackets, obviously getting me mixed up with you. It's an Eminem movie where he wraps his criticisms in the final rap battle.
That's nice.
Close brackets.
I love it. I love it when LBC listeners send you explanatory notes.
It's very important.
And it's really helpful.
It's to be encouraged.
It is to be encouraged. Absolutely.
And I think you've said this, but just in case you haven't, to be absolutely clear, this is why they hate and fear her so much.
Indeed so. And as I say, the net result of today will be that those people angry that Dowden could not score what should have been basically an open goal will redouble their efforts. So expect to see more in the Sunday papers, I would say.